All right, GM everyone, and welcome to Numbers Therapy, episode 33. Today's episode titled Masters in Organization, and welcome to 2023 Numbers Therapy as well. So we are into 2023, and the first episodes of the year will feature some new advisors per the January curriculum. That's not all to come. You're going to see some increasingly impressive guests coming on who will give us some incredible info and knowledge. We're also going to be having some additional cross-episode structure to account for various buckets that we want to touch on, as well as just-in-time events. For those unfamiliar, we're on Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts in case you miss an episode. But even better, we're going to be upping the game on formatting and some other nice changes as we go along, so look out. One more request as well that we always have, we actively want feedback, and we're actually going to have a bit of a thing rolling out for that as well, as we really value feedback. It continues to up the level and the quality of numbers therapy, and we really appreciate everyone who's given feedback already. So if you ever have any thoughts, please share it, but we'll have a more formalized process for that too. And lastly, if you have any dream topics or guests, please send them across and the team will take a look. With the rise of numbers therapy, we're getting more and more of these folks, and we can bring in who we want to be able to cater to who everybody wants to hear, what topics they want. So if anybody in mind that they want to hear on or any topic, just please drop us a line and we'll try to make it work. So for framing purposes, purpose of numbers therapy is to talk through the macro and showcase the best of Web3, discussing the wider thought, strategy, and nuance that no one else is talking about. Specifically, our goal for all of you and our audience is ensure everyone understands how all of the big pieces fit together, plus where the Web3 world is likely to go. Help everyone make better decisions with NFTs and other investments, including time investments, using a balanced perspective. Learn about different areas and opportunities and different ways of thinking, and provide a sneak peek behind the curtain of our guests, their processes and their paths. It helps give wider context beyond what we normally hear. Also, as a reminder, numbers therapy is for all levels, intentionally. We're going to define terms and go through the 101 and definitions and progress to more advanced concepts all within the same episode. Perk of MVHQ is to be part of the live audience. Therefore, if you have any questions at all on acronyms, verbiage, or even more advanced questions, please just drop it in guest questions. Don't be shy. It's a great opportunity. And equally, it's very likely somebody else has the exact same question as you. So don't be shy and just rip it. Lastly, important note and disclaimer, none of what you hear in here is financial advice. It's all opinions. So without further ado, and on to today's guest and episode. Today's guest is an absolutely amazing analyst and trader. Think Goodwill Hunting. He's very under the radar, but is an absolutely incredible time organizer and multitasker. And what's even more beautiful is that his background will showcase how methodically he thinks and structures his daily processes. As a result of this conversation, you should hopefully become a better investor, trader, and even general multitasker. And I kind of hope that that's the case for me as well. He's a bit more reserved, but don't let that fool you. The guy is an absolute beast and is a prime example of rapid knowledge up-leveling, hustle, and organization. So very happy to have him as a friend and a new sounding board for process as well. Please, everyone, welcome Dizi to the stage, everyone. Dizi, how's it going today?
I'm good, man. I'm happy to be here.
Amazing. I'm really happy to have you as well. And let's start off with the name first, because I always love hearing the backstories and sharing that with everyone. Where did the name Dizi come from? What was the backstory there?
So I used to sell rare or OG usernames in the black market, and this was just like a leftover Twitter I had. I like the short names.
That's too funny. This was the unsellable one. That's worth not so much. That's amazing. I've not heard that story be the outcome. So that's great.
I've sold like Xbox gamer tags, Twitter usernames, whatever.
Amazing. That totally fits in. I assume ENSs and all the related.
Yeah, I was in ENS. Got in early, got a fat airdrop.
Amazing. Yeah, I remember that airdrop. I think we all remember that airdrop. So with that in mind, can you tell us a bit about your background prior to Web3? How did you spend your time, your energy, your hustle hours? Whatever you feel comfortable, the more the better, of course.
So before NFTs,
before Web3 NFTs.
I was still collecting and flipping things. Like, I'm a sneakerhead. I like fashion. I was doing trading cards, sports cards. So I always collected and resold on the side. pretty much
Right?
doing the same things like now with NFTs.
And what about, how you're spending your core hours like during the day? I know you have, a day job now in addition to what you do, within Web3. How are you spending that time? Like, what was your background there? Always helps to, for everyone to understand like your vantage point and how you think through things.
Yeah, I go to the gym every day. I work out and still have time for NFTs. Just staying organized helps a lot. Do
That
the
makes
use
sense.
of multiple spreadsheets.
Cool. And what about your background, like your day job? Because you have a day job still, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I'm an electrical engineer.
Cool. And so that's a different background, right? Not everybody in here or listening are electrical engineers. How do you think that that's influenced the way you think, the way you structure? Does that have any impact in terms of how you approach things?
Um, I don't really think so. I just
Um, Go ahead.
I'm always just trying to get as much information as possible,
Okay.
doing research.
So, I mean, I guess back in the day when you were a sneakerhead, how did a handful of folks who are listening live, a handful of folks who are going to be listening later, come from that world, right? Um, how did you find being a sneakerhead and getting introduced to the world of Web3? Like, was it a very natural link for you? And how did you hear about the world of Web3? Like, what was the initial catalyst that came about?
Yeah, so I was reselling sneakers, and it was 2 years ago that I discovered NBA Top Shot, and that's when um, it made sense to me because it was digital collectible, and I was doing sports cards at the time. And with NFTs, like you don't have to go through the process of opening cards, hoping that they're good, and grading them. NFTs were just easy to trade and show off. So Top Shot was where I first started with my $100 investment.
Yeah, that sounds like a familiar story. Before we get into Web3 and how you structure your processes and all those secret things that you kind of have in mind that drive you to be successful, let's maybe talk about pre Web3 land first, right? In terms of the sneaker category. Obviously, like as time goes, all of us listening in here, all of us who are going to be listening in the recorded version, believe in Web3, right? Think it's going to increasingly rise. May take some time. Obviously, the macro situation needs to improve. All those good things, right? But we all believe in it, right?
Yep.
What do you think is going to happen with the physicals market over time? Not just sneakers, which is definitely part of it, but even like cards. Do you have an opinion in terms of where that's going to go? Is that going to continue to be a thing even with the rise of Web3? What's your opinion there?
Yeah, I think we'll still be doing the physical stuff until the metaverse things are ready, which I don't see um, happening in the near future.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's. I agree. I mean, I think it's definitely going to take time. Even if you have the prognosis that 24 is going to be a better year, and that, I mean, we're still at a minuscule percentage of the population that's adopted Web3. Big brands are still a minuscule percentage that have adopted and migrated into Web3. So yeah, it still seems like we're a ways away. And I guess people are still going to want sneakers always as well, right? IRL sneakers, even if it's a phygital model. So I guess there's that too. Um, okay, so currently you still have your day job, correct?
Yep.
So can you walk us through an average day for you? I know you said you go to the gym, but like walk us through your average day just so we can get a sense of like what your schedule flow is like, how many things you're doing, just at a high level, how you manage.
So when I'm at work, I focus on my work. Um, I'm either in the lab or on the computer making test plans. But whenever I'm free, I'll look at NFT stuff like wallet tracking helps a lot with that. I use Ninja Alerts.
Good shout out to Ninja Alerts. So what is that like preparing? Because I think you go into any day and I think you're working what, like 10 hours a day plus or minus with your core job. Is that about right?
Yeah.
Okay.
8 hours.
So 8 hours. Okay, so 8 hours, right? And you're pretty heads down, like you said, right? You're pretty
Yeah.
focused. Notwithstanding a Ninja Alert ping, like you're pretty heads down, right?
Yeah.
What do you have to do to prepare the night before? Not just for ninja alerts and alerts that come up, but to be able to prepare for any mints or any trades that could come up. Because you and I have talked, right? I know for certain things you'll carve out time in the day, at least to monitor, or at the very least to monitor at the very best. To really, at the very best to really go man trade, that kind of a thing. So what do you have to do the day before or the night before to prepare you for that? And then also, how do you what's your mentality? You're not going to catch everything, right? When you're at work, it's totally impossible because otherwise you'd get nothing done. So what's your mentality there? Like, take us through how you think about all that.
Yeah, definitely miss entries and exits, but um, I just move on. There's always plays to be made.
So, oh yeah, go ahead, please.
Go ahead.
No, please, you go ahead.
I forgot what I was saying.
Okay. So what are the kinds of things that you do the evening before? Right, because I think your schedule is something like this, and tell me if this is wrong. You're up. You go to the gym in the morning, or you go later in the day? What's your typical setup?
I go in the gym late morning, like 11.
Okay, so you go to the gym, you go to work, or somewhere interjected in between, and then later in the day, you come back and you have clear time, right? Like clear time to be able to hustle and organize and get your processes set and your documents and files set and all of that. So take us through that, right? You come back from work, you probably saw what you may have missed in a given day, within Web3, and then you have to get organized, really fast and go hustle to be able to trade, get prepared for the next day. So what's the first thing you do when you come back from work? Are you, reading to be able to catch up on everything? Are you looking at the things that you minted that day? Are you looking at your portfolio to be able to, what's the first thing you tend to do when you come back from work?
So I'm part of many alpha groups, and they do collab allow list giveaways. So I spend time going through those and entering the ones I like.
Okay, that's the first thing you do.
Yep.
I know that from you and I talking that you were also a multi-browser, multi-accounter, at some point, and I know that's something that a lot of us have played with. I know you had a different approach originally for that, right? And you want to tell everyone about what level that got up to in the past, how it originally went, and then maybe how that's evolved since?
Yeah, so I was multi-accounting like as soon as pre-mint came out. That involves having proxies, like having a different IP address for every separate Google Chrome profile. Nowadays, it's not as easy because the accounts get banned, like Twitter, Discord, Gmail. But yeah, I had to juggle all that and keep track of everything.
And how many did you get up to? When pre-mint or pre-mint, like how many accounts did you get up to at that point?
Like early on, I was doing 50. At one point, it got to 200, but it's not that high anymore.
200, not just 200 manual, right? Like you were managing.
Yeah, I was
right?
running manual. No VAs, just manual.
How has it evolved? Because I know with the alpha groups and the whitelist signups, you changed a little bit what your process is, right? In some cases, tech has changed to some extent, and it allows for kind of multi-wallet. But how have you changed your process over time?
Yeah, with these new raffle sites coming out like AlphaBot, they let you put in many wallets, one for every community. So you don't have to go too crazy with the multi-accounting, the proxies.
That makes sense. Are you then as a result holding multiple membership tokens for each alpha group? Is that how you're managing it? And if so, how many? And how are you thinking about managing that and optimizing that?
Nah, I don't really do that. But I have a lot of different ones that are pretty similar and have similar giveaways.
That makes sense. What about your spreadsheets? Can we talk about your spreadsheets a little bit? Because I sense that these are some pretty good magical spreadsheets that you have and very organized. Predominantly because like you have your day job, right? There's only so much that you can, there's only so much you could do and also keep organized and be able to take care of things during the day. Like, what's the spreadsheet structure that you have and the process that's related to it? Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, so I have a spreadsheet for like the multi accounts. I have one for my most important one is the allow list tracker, which tells me the project, like what wallet I submitted in, what group I submitted it through, just to make sure that I know like what wallet was submitted for each project for a whitelist giveaway.
That's one that you have an allow list tracker. That's one sheet. Do you have other sheets or workbooks that you have as well?
Yeah, I have some to keep track of secondary, like potential secondary plays I'm interested in.
What does that
Like,
look like? Let's talk about that one for a sec before we move on. So, what does that one look like? Like, where do you source your possible secondary plays that you want to mark? I assume it changes, right, in any given day or what the conditions are.
yeah, changes with
This
the
is
meta.
a hard task for everyone, right? If you look out there, there's like what is it? Thousands of projects probably that are out. Like, it's almost mind blowing, even with using the tools to figure out where we should put your attention. So, how do you think through that? How do you think through which projects to have on that sheet or which categories you're going to analyze and focus on? How do you distill that, especially given the fact that you have a limited amount of time?
So I buy projects that I'm interested in. I keep track of floor price, volume, even the best offers. I like one of my strategies is WETH offering. So I like to see if there's any room for profit between the best offer and the floor price.
So, okay, so let's just say you're tracking then, right? There's always constant opportunities that exist. What's the signal for you that you should pay attention to one thing over something else, other than obviously an alert? If you had alerts, you can constantly get distracted, obviously, right? Like there's always an opportunity to get distracted. Have something else that's pinging. So how do you kind of triage that in your head, knowing that there's always something that could be coming up?
If there's too much attention on a project, they'll get a lot of pings and buys. And in that moment, like I usually fade the public and start looking for other opportunities instead of falling for the FOMO.
That's super interesting. So does that mean, as you're looking at any of the tools that show trending and that you're sliding away from that? Because the downside of that, of course, is like, for traders, at least traders are seeking volume typically, right? That's something that usually creates action. So does that mean you move? Go ahead. Yeah, please.
I would look into why that's pumping. Like there must be news or something.
Yeah.
Maybe just like an announcement and it's just momentum trading. Sometimes I could get into that if I'm early enough.
So, okay, so that makes total sense. So you have this secondary sheet. Does the secondary sheet that you have gets blended with like the tools you use, right? So you keep this sheet. You say these are the projects I'm going to monitor based on what any action that's happening, any of the tools that are kind of popping off and show volume or something else. You look into the reasons. It sounds like you're not immediately taking action though in most cases, right? You're kind of marking it down as something to watch. And then what shifts it at that point, right? At what point does it go from your secondary sheet something that you take action on? And is your secondary sheet for like quick tradable things, or is it for investing? And how are you thinking about that?
Yeah, more for midterm, long-term plays.
Okay.
That I'm comfortable with.
Therefore, you're patient with it. Your secondary sheet is like patient money.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
My allow list flips. That's my quick flip money.
Interesting. So outside of your allow list flips, you don't have a lot of quick secondary plays that you make. So it tends to be either allow list flips or conviction secondary that's more midterm plus. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, that definitely helps to understand. Any other sheets that you have? I get the sense you might have more.
Um, my wallet track list. I like to have notes on people and where they're affiliated with, if possible.
Anybody who used to play online poker for whatever it's worth, one of the common tools there was you were able to keep notes on people. So next time you played them, you had the history and the log of hand history or whatever else. It was always a pretty fun piece of functionality to be able to use, especially because they don't know it. So in this case, like, what kinds of notes are you making? Are you making on your wallet track list? Are you saying, monitoring what their success rate's been, what their style is, how aggressive they are? Like, what kinds of notes are you making in that sheet?
Yeah, like their trading styles, if they're profitable or if they're a floor breaker. I like to keep tabs on everyone because I usually look at the holders list before buying into a project and see who's likely the diamond hand or paper hand.
Super interesting. In how big is this list? Out of curiosity, how many folks do you have on there at this point?
Um, Not many.
How many? Okay. That makes total sense. I would, for whatever it's worth, I would not recommend putting me on the list. You're not going to learn anything whatsoever from that. So you have far better candidates that are in this audience right now to be able to put on that list. But at some point, I'd love to see that list as well. So you have the allow list tracker. You get home, you get back from work. First thing you do is you go to those, the alpha discords. You sign up for the allow list. You probably see which ones you've won. Organize your lists. Calendar invites as well. Are you putting calendar invites on your calendar to make sure you don't forget? When it
Yeah, I do have a calendar. Yeah.
Okay, so calendar invites. What about the preparation process, right? So for a given mint, I'll give an example. There's a mint today that's, I didn't see if it's a Dutch auction, but I think it's a 2 ETH mint, right? Of course you have to prepare with like right amount of ETH. If you have multiple accounts, of course, like all those kind of logistical things that we all know. So when are you doing that? Are you blocking time directly in advance of the mint to do that? Are you doing that the night before? Like, how do you organize that?
So I always I look at the drop list and rank the projects in my head of which one I think will do well. And yeah, would get ETH ready for the day before.
When you're ranking the projects, does it tend to be, and I'm super curious to hear about this because there's a lot that anyone can miss out on. Does it tend to go into like binary, like one of two categories for you, where like this is one that I think could be good, therefore I'm going to pay attention to it, and these ones, even though I won the allow list, it's just not going to be good, and I'm not going to pay any attention to it. Might I miss some good opportunities once in a while? Maybe, but I'm just not going to pay attention to it. Is that how you think about it, or you pay attention to all of them, but just very lightly to the ones that you don't rank high? How do you approach that?
I usually have like 3 levels. Like there's good, mid, and degen / early. Like the good projects are more likely to jump through the hoops to get that whitelist, like join the Discord, like and retweet something. I'd be more likely to do all that for the good projects rather than a degen early project with not many followers.
Is this at the allow list submission phase? So you're saying like for a good project, if you're going to research it before you even sign up for the allow list or for the raffle, for instance, and make sure it's good first, or is this after you sign up for them? Anything else that's required? Can you explain that?
Yeah, even like early on signing up for the allow list, I can save some time by quickly going through the Twitter and see like how many followers, if it's real engagement, any trusted mutual followers.
So if you go through and you see that it's just not likely a good project, will you just not even sign up for the allow list raffle at that point, or am I hearing that wrong?
It depends how I'm feeling, how much effort I want to put in. But if like they're asking for like to join a Discord, I probably wouldn't do it.
Okay. So, I mean, you're full well going into this knowing that you're just going to miss on things, right? You're totally going to miss out on things sometimes, right? You're obviously playing like the add-on, the odds play, and knowing that you're maximizing your time as much as possible. You're going to miss things. There's no way around it, right?
Yeah, I miss things.
How do you deal with that? That's a challenge that I feel like we've all felt at some point, right? Which is, look, we're investing in this space. We're being our own, mini VC as an investor or trader, that kind of a thing. And then right around us, right, within a Discord chat or VC or wherever else it is, there's all these people that are winning on these projects, right? Which is great because we want everyone to win, but you're sitting there being like, how did I miss this? Like, that kind of a thing. So how do you deal with that? How do you like mentally compartmentalize and just know that you're not going to catch everything? How do you personally handle that?
I don't look in the past. Like I said, there's many plays to be made. Projects come out every day. So I'm just looking for new opportunities instead.
Okay, that sounds like a good way to handle it. So then, what about planning for your during your workday, right? So like, what's the filter there for what meets the mark of something that you're going to allow it to distract you, right? Because you probably have to allow it to distract you for 20 minutes, 30 minutes minimum, right? Leading up to the mint, getting prepared, actually minting if you decide to mint, right? So how do you decide like what meets that bar of something that's worth me being distracted in for work versus not, especially considering, right, you're there for 8 hours, right? So each project takes 30 minutes of distraction, right? You can only jam 16 in before you have absolutely zero work day and you get nothing done. So you could probably only pick a couple spots. So how do you think about that?
So the biggest things about a project is the hype levels and the price and supply, if they're fair for current market conditions, and what the current trend or meta is. Pay attention to all that.
Okay. So you're taking a stab of like what's the best of best and what's the max distraction that you'll allow yourself to have in a day, let's say while you're working? Is it 2 minutes, 3 minutes? Are there days where it's just a really crazy slate and you may just say, look, I'm going to be a little bit more distracted by Web3 and trading today, and I'll just make up the work tomorrow? Like, how does that go?
No, it doesn't really take that much time up for me, just because of how organized I am. I don't spend much time on a mint.
Okay, so are you also spending time afterwards though flipping it while you're kind of catching the action, or are you minting the expectation of like when you get home, when you're done with work, for instance, is when you're going to possibly sell? How do you think about that?
Yeah, I hope that the project survive until then. That's when that's the best time for me to look at projects, but I do check my phone, check the Blur and NFT Nerds, see how it's doing every once in a while.
Something that's like I feel like being a little bit understated here that is really impressive that you're doing, right, is we all want to be able to spend time on this. We're spending the time and energy to like understand how everything fits together, understand, what's the meta, all that good stuff. Also, like many of us who are on here have like jobs, right? Or something that occupies our time. We're building a project or something else like that, right? So I feel like being pretty understated, but that's really impressive is that you're able to be distracted and then yet come back to work and be able to focus there. So how do you balance that, right? Where otherwise you're going to get constant pings. There's always going to be some kind of alert. Although you can filter it, of course, too. Do you time block during the day so that you say, within these 2 hours, I'm just going to focus on work. I'm going to have no notifications on, and then maybe for this hour, I'm going to review the how do you approach that so you can actually get things done? It's far easier said than done.
I just focus on my work, but I keep in mind the drop times that I'm interested in and get ready for those. But yeah, I really just focus on my Web2 job while I'm doing that. I like keeping my mind off and not just being on Discord and Web3 all the time.
That makes total sense. You do, if I heard you right though, you do have ninja alerts on during the day, right? Or is that just at night?
Yeah, I always have it mobile app.
So you do have very, very, very heavy filters on there, so that the only time you're getting pinged is, whatever you deem to be like a mega opportunity, for instance.
I have buys and mints, but only for selected wallets. I try to track people that don't like mint as often.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
people with similar trading styles in mine that good
So that's your
good
filter.
success rate.
Got it. Okay. So the people who you very much trust, and that only if this, and that, like you said, don't mint often, only if this circumstance comes up, you know that it's likely to be a very, very good mint that exists. And you'll drop your stuff at that point. But because it's very, very filtered, these pings probably don't come up so much. Is that right?
Correct.
Got it. Okay. There's the secret sauce right there. That definitely helps, because otherwise it'd be very tough to get work done as well. Cool. So understood about your sheets. I know conviction's a big thing for you, right? There's, within the kind of investing, trading Web3 community, there's a whole lot of folks who are on the flipping side of things, and I'm not sure all of them have it structured quite the same way as you, right? Where you only flip, allow lists, and then the rest of it's all medium term on conviction, right? So you're spending like a good amount of time on your medium term conviction. What is your definition of conviction, right? Like, what does that feel like to you? How do you think about that?
Conviction to me is like having enough belief in a project that it will be worth more than what you paid for at some point in time. Because people say they have conviction and sell because everything has a price.
Yeah, and in your experience with conviction, do you tend to consider what other people's opinions are on the project, or do you tend to just think completely independently when you're determining what's a conviction project? How do you factor in other people's opinions?
I do keep it in mind, but I'm a solo trader and I really try not to fall into the group FOMO. Just trust my own research.
I think that's really cool, and it's really cool and commendable, because there's a lot of really smart people within here, for instance, within MHQ, certainly within other discords as well. And it's so easy to be shaded by other people's opinions, or especially when several smart people have an opinion about something, right? And you just don't disagree with it, or vice versa. So I think that's a really impressive thing. We do have some questions starting to come in too, by the way. So, in line with conviction, where do you find and research artists, and how do you decide which ones to have conviction to go all in on?
Did you say artists?
Yeah, artists, but we can also say just like project leads as well, or projects, and replace artists with that.
Well, I'm caught up on the artists right now. So I like to I make tier lists as well. I like to compare projects, compare artists, and yeah, really just try to trade on. Sorry, I can't. So top tier artists and projects is what I really try to aim for.
What's the tipping point for you? And also, I heard you say with conviction, you don't tend to rely on other people's opinions too, right? So like for you, I'm sure you're sitting on these thoughts for a while, right? Like you have your projects that you're monitoring, you're going to study them for a while, and you're probably not going to make a decision, until you're really confident that it's a good decision to make, the price is right, all those good. Yeah. What do you find to be like the tipping point? You have an example of a project or projects that you were monitoring for a while, and you finally decided to pull the trigger on it, right? What do you have any of those examples that come to mind? And if so, like, what was that tipping point for you that you said, okay, it's time. I've been monitoring this. I have as much information as I'm going to get. It's not perfect information, but it's as much as I'm going to get. Time to pull the trigger.
Yes, I'll go with the Max Payne by Xcopy. I was monitoring it and seeing that the floor got up, and the floor listings were like a month old. People that forgot about their listings just caught up to it. And seeing big Xcopy sales recently, even in the bear market.
So yeah, so basically what you're saying is this was, market resistant. You saw that was the case, but you kind of felt like were being a little bit negligent in not updating their listings or adapting to what the right pricing should be or the risk should be. And that was the opportunity that you kind of saw in this case. And you'd already studied Xcopy in this case, and you said, this is a project that, I guess one of several projects, right? I'm keen to go in on for the right timing and the right setup. And so you already had identified that you were keen on Xcopy projects, but we're just waiting for the right moment. Is that right?
Yeah. He's a top tier artist to me, and I've noticed that every March is when he does his nifty gateway drops, and that's when like Max Payne came out, and he does burns as well. So I was maybe speculating on a burn for it.
Okay, that makes sense, and I feel like some of the folks listening now are probably familiar with that, but not all, right? So there's definitely some information that you have that not everyone pays attention to. I guess there's only so much one could pay attention to. What Jinso's asking live, what are some of the best trades that you've executed? Can you give us a bit of a walkthrough?
So my best wins were like conviction reveals. Other deeds was I made over 100 ETH off that, revealing a few codas. And also in August of 2021, I had a couple big wins in the same week. I had Oni Force with 80 ETH profit and Mutant Ape Yacht Club with 50 ETH profit.
Can you take one of those examples and maybe walk us through, or maybe a couple of them if you want to, but walk us through how you went about that, right? I mean, I think many people in here minted other side, right? And almost everybody, I imagine, minted other side. Even the anti-KYC folks, I think, minted. So, can you take an example in there and walk us through like what your thought process was on it and how you were thinking about timing and when to sell and did you then purchase from secondary? Like, how did you approach that?
So, biggest question is the hold to reveal or sell pre-reveal. I try to get as much information as a project as possible for that. I look at the sneak peeks, rarity info if there's any. Like I knew codas were the rares going in, and I like the odds of rolling one. So I revealed my 9 other Ds and got 3 codas.
That's a pretty good return. I think that's above EV. So that works out pretty well. Okay, so you make that decision, but if you remember when those particularly minted at the time, right? There was the question of, I think they ran up to what 8 or 9, and that's in old dollar denominated terms, right? And so there was a good chunk of folks in here, for instance, that just sold, right? Because they thought that was a pretty good exit at that point, and then just some who held at that point, and then some, of course, not only held and revealed, also held past the rise, even as kind of ETH dropped and that kind of a thing. So how are you thinking about that and putting those pieces together? Did you give yourself a time limit, for instance, where you said, I don't know, the market might be a little bit shaky and therefore I'm only going to give myself so long? Like, how did you fit those pieces together?
I don't know where my intuition comes from.
Okay, that's going with gut is is a good approach. There's no doubt about it. What about the other projects? What about like OmniForce, for instance? Can you take us through, what your thought process was there?
Yeah, that's it. at the time, the sneak peeks were amazing, and there wasn't really any anime projects. I was not expecting the big influencer pump Gary V, Logan Paul buying. Just happened to hold like long enough to make 80 ETH off of 5 ETH mint.
And then I assume you were just at sell mode immediately. Like that seems like the natural approach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes total sense. By the way, just worth calling out another question that exists here. And now it's all you, right? Like you don't have VAs helping you in the background. You're doing everything yourself. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, super impressive, especially with 200 wallets. By the way, super impressive that that's the case. So, given where we're at right now, I mean, first off, are you spending a good amount of time now? We're at this like little rise recently, right? Where there's more action. You know, yesterday, the day before, last week. Are you spending the same amount of time or similar amount of time to what you were maybe 6 months or a year ago? You know, where do you think we're at in the market right now? You know, what's your opinion on where we're at with the market right now?
I find myself spending more time. There's a lot more like blue chips, but there's also more tools that can help us manage this. Yeah, I have a lot of tools, extensions that I use, bots.
Can we get a little peek there and hear about what you're using there on the extension side?
So there's a couple free Google Chrome extensions that help enhance OpenSea for more information. There's Super C, which is the free version is good. It gives you floor pricing, helps with metadata refreshing. There's also Rareboy. That one helps you find unclaimed NFTs. Like recently, I was buying pudgy penguins with unclaimed little pudgies and making money from that.
And on top of like, okay, so you have your browser extensions, of course. Have your several profiles. You have your spreadsheets, your calendar. Are you using any workflow tools on top of it as well? Anything to like be able to manage tasks that you have or automate processes or notifications or automate anything else? Any other tools that you're using for that?
No, I don't have any. No tools for that.
Super impressive. Pharaoh, maybe we'll have you on at some point or we'll be able to get at least a line of question on workflow tools and how we could possibly integrate them. I'm sure there's a couple of folks who have opinions on that too. So it sounds like you're spending more time now, and you're focused on blue chip projects. You think there's some opportunity that exists there. Where do you think we're at in the market in general right now? Like, do you see things improving in the NFT market in the near term? Like, where's your head at right now, and where do you think we're going?
I think Q1's pretty busy for NFTs with all these with all the blue chip news like Yuga Labs with the trial of Jimmy the Monkey, the Azuki anniversary, the Moonbirds Mythics Mint, Artifact Animus Eggs, Ether Mint. Like there's a lot going on. I think people will be occupied for a while.
Okay, that makes sense. What are you seeing from the like the people that you're tracking, for instance? Are they active? Like the people that you trust? You see them being increasingly active? Like do you see an adaptation there? Because obviously we need those folks to be a part, certainly growth beyond that. So are you getting as many pings lately? Let's ask that.
Nah, not really.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So where do you think in general we're going with the markets and successful projects? Like let's just say we looked out 6 months or a year or even beyond that. Which projects or kinds of projects do you think will be most successful? And how are you thinking about that?
Like in the future, they would have to be innovative and start new meta.
New meta. So do you think What do you think about existing projects? Existing blue chip projects, or not even blue chip projects, and where they're going to land? Do you think they're going to stand the test of time? Do you think that people are going to lose attention on them, and the new meta is always going to take over? Like, how are you balancing those?
Um, we need to see what they deliver because there hasn't been anything new. Like you guys doing another game we've seen before.
That's interesting. So you think that's not so innovative, basically. So I think what you're really kind of saying in there is it's a good thing, but maybe the market's going to overvalue that a little bit to some extent, since it's a bit of
I know
what we've already
that
seen.
they're working on more things, but just what we have right now
Yeah.
is we've seen like it's really just a JPEG Ponzi airdrop JPEG that they created for more.
Yeah. Got it. So maybe I can flip the dynamic in the other direction, which is, let's just say you were starting your own project. You're obviously busy. You have your day job. You've got 5 or 6 other things that you're doing, not just NFT stuff, but also beyond. So this is probably more of a theoretical question. But let's just say you had the time and the interest. You were to start a project now. Where would your attention be? What do you think strikes you as a category or a kind of project that you think would be super interesting?
If I were to start a project, I would want it to be perfect. My attention would be everywhere if I'm putting my reputation on the line.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing I said before was price and supply. Make sure it's fair for the current market conditions, and that includes a royalty number. I would make sure there's constant and transparent communication, which a lot of blue chips have been lacking.
Yeah. And do you have a type of project that you'd want to create that you think is likely to be received and more successful?
Like me personally,
Yeah, you personally. I think it ties in pretty interestingly too, right? Because one of the interesting things you said to me was, I go with projects that I'm interested in. Like, so often, it's such like a small thing, but it sounds like a small thing, but it's huge actually, because I feel like so many people, are going not just where the meta is, but where the interest is, or what people are saying are good categories, that kind of a thing. You take a different approach, right? You go with what you like and what you're excited by and what you think is going to be good, and that's the direction that you go. So I wonder if you were creating a project, would it be similar? And is there like a certain category that stands out to you of something that you really like a lot that you think also the market would like a lot as well?
I guess it would have to, if I were to do it, it would be uh, alpha or education group.
Well, that's cool. Super cool. Yeah, I mean, I guess there's always more room for that. No doubt about it. Certainly some good alpha groups out there. MBHQ being one, and there are certainly several others too. But there's always need for that, especially as we're trying to bring on more Web2 folks who need that education and knowledge and that transition, and so that totally makes sense. Maybe I'll ask one other question before we kind of go on, but overall in the Web3 market, what has you most excited coming up? Is there anything that really stands out to you that you're super excited about, either something that's evolving in general within Web3 or a specific project, or anything stand out to you?
I'm interested in the other side because I was a gamer, and so seeing other side, which is a browser game that can have thousands of people on at the same time, it's pretty cool.
That's totally awesome. By the way, since you went there, what is your opinion on where do you think gaming is going? Do you think the Web2 folks are going to cross over to, I hate to say the other side, but cross over to to the dark side and get comfortable with Web3 gaming? What do you think is likely to happen there?
P2E is like partially what attracted me to Web3 as well. I played Axie in the beginning, so I think it'll take a long time for the gamers to get into Web3.
Yeah. It sounds like you think
Yeah.
it's going to happen. It just may take time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, this has been really great. I appreciate you a lot coming on because, you know, like you said, you tend to be a little bit on the shyer side, but that's the reason that I frame this to everybody is that you're kind of quiet but deadly, to be honest. You know, you're always thoughtful and really, really well structured. And for that reason, I'm super appreciative that you were able to come on and, you know, go outside of your comfort zone with it and really do this for MVHQ and for all listeners kind of beyond that. So really, really appreciative of you coming on and being comfortable talking through, and everybody listening, you know, very, very appreciative of you too. And, you know, the questions that you had. And yeah, we'll see you same time or similar time next week. Really appreciate it. Again, if you continue to have any thoughts or folks you want on or categories, please feel free to drop us a line. And thanks so much, everyone. Really, really appreciate it. We'll see everybody down in VC1.